Hey y'all, we are going to take a look at the male reproductive system at the histology level, the tissue level. We're going to start where sperm is made, and that's the testes. So here is 40X, a view of the testes. You can see the outline here. This is probably from a rodent. And a bunch of tubes. Those are the seminiferous tubules. Every single one of those tubes is a cut seminiferous tubule. 100X. We can see the tubules a lot better. You can start to see the detail of the spermatogonia, which are lining the tubes. Those darker ones, most of the dark ones you see. Spermatozoa, plural, are in the center. And then Leydig cells, the ones that produce testosterone, they respond to luteinizing hormone. They're found here on the outside interstitially. Let's go to 400X. So here you can see the detail now of each seminiferous tubule. Most of these darker cells that you see lining each seminiferous tubule are spermatogonia. They undergo meiosis to eventually produce spermatids, which mature into spermatozoa here in the center. They're immature. The sperm, the flagella are not yet fully motile, among other things. Additionally, there are cells here within the tubules that are long, like this one here, that span this whole length, I don't know what to call it, but this length here. Longer cells, they're called Sertoli cells or nurse cells or sustanacular cells. Lots of names for the same thing. I'm going to call them Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells, they're stimulated by a follicle-stimulating hormone, and in turn, they stimulate the spermatogonia. And spermatogonia undergo meiosis to produce the spermatids, which become spermatozoa. So, Sertoli cells are nursing or sustaining the spermatozoa. Sertoli cells. Leydig cells are on the outside of the tubes. Those are the ones that respond to luteinizing hormone and produce testosterone. We can see that there are multiple layers here because multiple layers of cells. You can see a nucleus, 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 because it's that spermatogonia, spermatogonium singular, undergoing meiosis, becoming a spermatocyte. There's primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte. I'm not going to test you on that, but that's why you can see multiple layers. I want you to pay attention to that, to those multiple layers, because when we switch to the epididymis, it looks very, very similar, but there's only one layer. Lots of tubes here. They are bigger. We're at 40X again. They are bigger tubes with sperm in the middle. But if you look closer, here in the epididymis, which is just posterior to the testes, we're only seeing one layer of epithelium. All of this is sperm in the middle. The epididymis has pseudostratified columnar epithelium, so just one layer, with microvilli. I'm at 40X right now. You can faintly see the microvilli here, where the arrow is. And the microvilli, they're not microvilli, they're stereocilia. They act like microvilli. These stereocilia are not like the ones in hair cells in the ear. They don't like bend and sway because of pressure. I mean, they do, but their main purpose is to absorb. That's what I say they're like microvilli, because they're increasing surface area. These stereocilia absorb fluid so that they create current waves for the sperm to be pushed forward, because these sperm can't swim on their own. They're not mature enough. Their flagella are not fully developed. Here is a view at oil immersion 1000X. We can see the stereocilia a lot better. Stereocilia, not microvilli. Sorry about that. So on the apical side, here you can see the stereocilia. You can see the pseudostratified columnar epithelium. And here's all the sperm. You can see all the wispy tails, the wispy flagella. Right, so that is the epididymis. After the epididymis, we then reach the ductus deferens. Older name is vas deferens. Ductus deferens makes more sense. And it's a small tube. Clearly, small tube. We're at 40X. There's a bit of smooth muscle, because at this point we need peristalsis to push the semen forward. So from this point of the arrow to out here, that's smooth muscle. Epithelium is still pseudostratified columnar with microvilli. Smooth muscle, pseudostratified columnar with microvilli. We're at 400x. Vas deferens. The vas deferens wraps around the bladder, urinary bladder, and continues on. To help contribute more to the semen production, we have the seminal gland or seminal vesicle. Seminal gland, as far as how it appears under the microscope, look for the darker, very irregularly shaped lumen spaces. Those are the glandular parts. We're at 40x right now. Those are the ones that are producing fluids, enzymes to help support the spermatozoa. Yeah, there's not really any pattern here. They're just very irregularly shaped glands. Let's take a closer look at the epithelium. Pretty columnar, pseudostratified, and there's smooth muscle interspersed surrounding the gland so that the fluids can be squeezed out into that last part of the ductus deferens. This is the seminal gland. In some cases, we can see some stratified. I can see stratified cuboidal here, stratified cuboidal or columnar. After the seminal gland contributes some fluid, the ductus deferens then ends in the prostate, and the prostate contributes more fluid. And at this point is when we go from the ductus deferens, the lumen space, to the urethra. The urethra is fairly long in male reproductive systems, so it depends on where we are, what type of epithelium it is. Here we're going to see transitional because it's close to the urinary bladder, and this is a shared pathway for urine and for semen. Later on, it becomes pseudostratified columnar or stratified columnar, and then it becomes non-keratinized stratified squamous by the tip, by the distal end of the penis. So all this irregular looking stuff, that's the glandular part, much like what we saw with the seminal gland. This is going to be a common theme. Lots of irregular looking spaces, that's a glandular tissue. This is of the prostate. This really long, wide one that's kind of shaped like a smiley face, that's the urethra. And surrounding all that epithelium is smooth muscle to help push out the fluids for the semen. Here's a closer look, 100x, the seminal gland, prostate gland. There's the transitional epithelium of the urethra. Let's look a bit closer, 400x. We can see some pseudostratified columnar. Even, I would actually say that this gets to be, that looks like stratified columnar. You can see the two layers here. So it can vary. It can be pseudostratified columnar, stratified columnar. When we get to the urethra, though, that's, at this point, since we're by the bladder, that's transitional. Urinary bladder, it's transitional. And then surrounding the prostate is connective tissue and smooth muscle. Likely areolar and smooth muscle to help squeeze it out. All right. After the prostate contributes fluid, we then get to the bulbourethral gland. Bulbourethral. It's bulbous and it feeds into the urethra. It's also called the Cowper's gland. Cowper's. Again, nothing too remarkable at this view. This is 40x. 100x, we can start to see a bit more detail. What we can start to see now are darker outlines, darker circular outlines of lighter spaces. This hopefully is reminiscent to you of the salivary glands, specifically of a gland like the sublingual. The bulbourethral gland secretes mucus from mucus cells, much like the stomach the mucus cells in the gastric pits of the stomach, and the mucus cells, the mucus acini of the sublingual gland and throughout the submandibular gland. So this is 100x. This is 400x. A bit lighter colored in the centers here. That's the mucousy part. It produces a clearish view, and then you can see some ducts here where there's a big lumen space in the middle there. Once we exit, once we go past the Cowper's gland, now we're in the penis. And in the penis, the urethra continues. We're at 40x right now. This Y-shaped fractally looking thing, that's the urethra. Why is it shaped like that? My best guess is that it so can expand. You don't want just a straight round tube. You want something that can expand because you're getting fluids passing through at different times. And you also need it to compress from time to time. So this is the lumen of the urethra. And by this point, it's non-keratinized stratified squamous. Since this is the urethra, that means this side, this is the ventral side where the arrow is. This is the ventral side. Over here is the dorsal side. Why is that important? Because this helps us figure out that, okay, the urethra is here. This tissue surrounding the urethra, this is known as the corpus spongiosum. It's a spongy body. It doesn't have that many blood vessels because we don't want, when the penis is erect, we don't want to compress the urethra. We want fluids to come out of it. We want semen to come out of it during ejaculation. So corpus spongiosum, it's more protective of the urethra. You can see a bunch of blood vessels like this large one here and larger ones all around it, but I want you to pay attention to, if this is the urethra and corpus spongiosum, on either side, over here where there's this big red area, and over here where there's this big red area, collectively these are known as the corpora cavernosa, singular corpus cavernosum. These areas are full of blood vessels, irregularly shaped, and they fill up with blood. They're cavernous. They fill up with blood during erection. This is 40x. 100x, you can see the blood in this larger cavernous area. Urethra, you can see the layers of the stratified squamous. Here's the other corpus cavernosum. And why not? Let's go to 400x. Irregularly shaped blood vessel. You can see arteriole here. Where's that urethra? Here it is. There's a urethra. What does sperm look like? Let's get a closer look. Sperm are the smallest cells that come from the human body. So we're not going to be able to see really anything. I'm in focus right now. This is 40x. Still in focus. This is 100x. You just see spots, but you can at least start to see the heads. This is 400x, high power. Still can barely see them. You can see the head right there and tail coming down. But let's go to a higher magnification. Oil immersion. And we can start to see it better. See the head region, which contains the DNA, and the flagellum off of it. Those are spermatozoa. All right, that's the male reproductive system in a nutshell. Thank you for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions. Take care.